In the heart of the Colorado Rockies, hidden behind layers of steel, concrete, and silence, stands the fortress known as ADX Florence, America's most secure prison. Dubbed the Alcatraz of the Rockies, this is not just any prison. It's a place built for the worst of the worst. Terrorists, assassins, mob bosses, and criminal masterminds too dangerous for the outside world. Here, men spend 23 hours a day in solitary confinement, surrounded by motion sensors, laser beams, armed guards, and 12-foot-high walls that seem to scrape the sky escape? That's a joke. No one escapes ADX Florence. No one ever has. Until now, the guards remember him as a ghost, silent, cold, calculated. He wasn't just a killer, he was a psycho, a man with a twisted mind and dead eyes that stared through you like glass. They locked him up with the highest level security clearance, convinced he was just another monster the world would never see again. But monsters don't stay buried forever. It started with a whisper, a malfunctioning camera, a flicker of doubt, then a routine head count, and a cell that was empty. What followed was pure chaos, alarms blaring, red lights flashing, boots pounding on steel floors. But it was already too late. The psycho was gone. How does someone escape from a place designed to be escape-proof? How does a man with no tools, no help from the inside, and no hope for parole vanish from a concrete tomb built to hold the devil himself? This is not just a story of a prison break. This is the story of a mind so twisted, so brilliant, that it cracked the uncrackable. A story that shook the American justice system to its core. A story that forced the country to ask, if he can escape, who's really safe? His name was Vincent Kane, but to the media, he was simply known as the devil in human skin. Vincent was born in a rundown neighborhood on the outskirts of Detroit. His childhood was a horror story in itself. His father, a violent alcoholic, vanished when Vincent was just 6. His mother, strung out on drugs, brought home strange men every night, some of whom used Vincent as a punching bag. By the age of 10, he had already been in juvenile detention twice, not for theft or vandalism, no, for setting fire to a neighbor's dog and nearly beating a classmate to death with a metal pipe. Psychologists said he lacked empathy, that his brain didn't process emotion like a normal child's. He was labeled a high-functioning sociopath before he hit puberty. But the system failed him, and worse, failed the people around him. By 17, Vincent had graduated from petty crimes to full-blown murder. His first known kill was a traveling nurse he abducted, tortured, and dismembered over the course of 3 days. But that was just the beginning. Over the next 6 years, he became one of America's most feared serial killers. He left behind a trail of victims across 5 states, each one killed in increasingly gruesome, ritualistic ways. Police found journal entries, cryptic messages carved into walls, and a chilling manifesto outlining his vision of cleansing society. The FBI launched a massive manhunt. His face was plastered on every news station, every billboard, every social media feed. But Vincent didn't run. He taunted, sending anonymous letters to investigators, teasing them, laughing at their failure. It took a task force of over 200 agents, an undercover sting, and a high-speed chase to finally bring him down. And when they did, he smiled. He didn't resist. He didn't plead insanity. He wanted to be caught, but not to repent. He wanted to be remembered. Given the sheer brutality of his crimes and the cold precision behind them, the court ruled he was too dangerous for any regular facility. He was transferred to ADX Florence, where prisoners are buried alive in concrete boxes, a place designed to swallow monsters like him forever. Inside ADX Florence, most inmates break within weeks. The silence, the isolation, the concrete walls that close in tighter every day. It crushes even the strongest minds. But not Vincent Kane. He didn't just survive the silence, he thrived in it. Locked in a tiny cell for 23 hours a day, with no human contact and no chance of parole, most would lose their minds. But Vincent remained calm, too calm. He never screamed, never cried, never begged. He sat in that concrete box like a king on his throne, smiling, thinking, planning. At first, guards thought he was finally broken, but they didn't see what was happening beneath the surface. He started small, writing letters, dozens of them, to journalists, to professors, even to victims' families. He played mind games with anyone who would listen. One guard received a letter from Vincent describing the guard's home, his children's names, and what time they left for school. Security tightened, but the message was clear. Vincent could still reach people, even from the inside. He learned the routines, knew which guards were new, which ones were weak. He studied them like puzzles, watching through the narrow slit in his cell door. One day, he snapped and attacked a guard during his hour in the yard, fractured his skull with a handmade shank fashioned from a piece of a broken toilet. But that wasn't madness. It was strategy. After that, they labeled him unpredictable, dangerous. He was locked down even tighter, just how he wanted. Other inmates feared him. Some tried to taunt him, others tried to befriend him. He ignored them all. Until one day, a fellow prisoner, a hacker, suddenly had his entire commissary account wiped out. No proof, no evidence. Just a quiet warning passed through the walls. Don't play games with Kane. But behind the eerie calm, behind the manipulation and random outbursts, something else was brewing. Vincent was playing the long game. Every action, every word, every violent burst, it all served a purpose. He wasn't just surviving ADX Florence, he was studying it. And while the guards thought they had the monster caged, the monster was quietly unlocking the cage from the inside. It began with a water leak. Routine maintenance, a corroded pipe beneath cell block D. The prison assigned 2 engineers, under heavy watch, to inspect the plumbing beneath Vincent Kane's wing. Kane noticed everything, the timing, the path of the workers, the tools, the access. That's when his plan kicked into motion. Weeks earlier, he'd faked a seizure during yard time, earning himself a brief transfer to the infirmary. There, he studied the medical bay's layout. He noted where the security cameras turned and where they didn't. On another occasion, he started a fire in his toilet using hidden paper and wires pulled from his wall light, forcing the guards to briefly remove him from his cell, just enough time to test response times. But the real trick? The human element. Vincent had spent months manipulating a young guard, Officer Jacobs. Pretending to open up during routine checks, Vincent learned Jacobs' weaknesses, his debt, his fear, his resentment toward the prison system. And then came the offer, help me, and you'll never worry about money again. Jacobs smuggled in tiny items, nothing flashy, a mini screwdriver, a USB key, a compact transmitter hidden in a fake tube of toothpaste. Vincent, with his eerie intellect, used these to access a utility panel behind his sink, left unsecured due to rushed repairs. From there, he rewired a sensor, disabling the motion alarm for 13 crucial seconds each night. The night of the escape was stormy. Perfect cover. At 2:13 a.m., Vincent slid through the maintenance hatch beneath his sink, crawled 30 feet through a drainage tunnel, and emerged behind the waste disposal facility, disguised in a stolen maintenance uniform. Officer Jacobs created a diversion, a fake emergency in another wing, drawing security away from the loading dock. By the time the 2:30 a.m. count began, Vincent Kane was already gone. Panic erupted. Sirens wailed. Searchlights scanned the desert. Doors slammed shut. The entire prison went into lockdown, but it was useless. News broke by morning. A psychopathic killer had escaped America's most secure prison. The media exploded. Headlines screamed. Politicians pointed fingers. The FBI launched a nationwide manhunt. But Vincent Kane? He vanished like a ghost. The escape of Vincent Kane wasn't just a breach of security, it was a full-blown national crisis. As soon as the news broke, the hunt began. The FBI, local law enforcement, and the Department of Homeland Security were all on high alert, mobilizing hundreds of agents across the country. The phone lines lit up with tips, but most were either vague or outright fabricated. Sightings flooded in from all corners of the United States. Reports of Kane spotted in small towns, in rural gas stations, even in crowded subway stations. But each lead turned cold, furthering the confusion and panic. It was a ghost story gone terribly wrong. The media didn't help. Journalists pounced on every new piece of information, regardless of its accuracy. Public fear reached a fever pitch. Families locked their doors at night. Cities that never thought about prison escapes now lived in the shadow of one. The questions hung in the air. How had he pulled it off? Where was he now? Was he hunting again? For weeks, Vincent stayed off the radar, silent, calculated, and far from the chaotic media frenzy. He knew better than to draw attention to himself. He used fake IDs to travel, blending in with the crowd. But the law was closing in. A network of informants, a few slip-ups, and surveillance footage from obscure cameras eventually narrowed down his location to a cabin in the woods of Oregon. Then came the final confrontation. A SWAT team, backed by FBI agents, surrounded the cabin. The tension in the air was thick with the promise of an explosive showdown. Inside, Vincent Kane sat, still calm, eerily serene, as if he had been expecting this moment all along. As the team stormed the cabin, he didn't resist. He didn't fight back. He simply stared them down, his cold smile the last thing they saw before they hauled him away in chains. But even in defeat, Vincent had won. He had broken the unbreakable. No one had ever escaped from ADX Florence before. And yet the unthinkable had happened. As he was transported back to a higher security facility, questions lingered. How did he do it? What kind of mind can outwit the best security system in the world? Vincent Kane was back in prison, but the message was clear. The system, designed to be infallible, had been exposed as vulnerable. And the haunting question remained, if a psychopath like Kane could escape, who else was next? The implications for national security were more profound than anyone had realized. This was no longer just about one man's escape. It was about the cracks in the system that allowed it to happen.